Passengers froze as the German Shepherd lunged toward the blue suitcase, growling, barking, teeth bared like he had found a deadly threat. Officers shouted for people to step back. The suitcase didn't move, but something inside it did. The police dog pressed his nose against the luggage, whining with a desperation no one had ever heard from him before. His handler tried to pull him back, but the dog refused, clawing at the zipper, barking frantically as if someone was running out of time. Everyone thought the dog had gone mad, but Rex kept barking, louder, harder, scratching at the zipper like he was trying to rip it open. Officer Daniels rushed over, grabbing the handle. "Who owns this luggage? Step forward now." No one did. Security teams surrounded the bag. People whispered, was it a bomb? Drugs? A hidden weapon? But no one had an answer. And when officers finally unzipped that suitcase, everyone wished they hadn't looked, because what they found was more shocking than anything they imagined. Stay with us, because this story will leave you shocked. Before we start, make sure to hit like and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. The airport buzzed with its usual morning chaos. Rolling suitcases, echoing announcements, and travelers rushing in every direction as if the entire world depended on their footsteps. Sunlight poured through the massive glass windows, casting long reflections across polished floors. It was the kind of morning where everything felt predictable, almost routine. Officer Mark Bennett stood beside his trusted K9 partner, Rex, watching the stream of passengers flow past the security checkpoint. Rex, an intelligent, sharp-eyed German Shepherd, sat perfectly still, scanning faces, bags, and movements with a focus that no human could match. His ears twitched with every sound, yet he waited patiently for Mark's next command. "Another busy one," Officer Daniels muttered as he joined Mark. "Feels like half the country decided to fly today." Mark chuckled. "Holidays coming up, people racing to get somewhere." But even as he spoke casually, Mark kept an instinctive watch over the entire area. Years of service had sharpened his senses. He could pick up nervous behavior, suspicious patterns, odd movements, but today nothing stood out. Just tired families, business travelers, and tourists dragging souvenirs. Rex sniffed the air, tail low but calm. Routine scans rarely bothered him. He handled crowds with more discipline than most officers. Children waved at him, selfies were taken from afar, and Rex would simply blink in acknowledgement, never breaking focus. The conveyor belt hummed steadily as luggage rolled through the X-ray machines. Officers checked IDs, scanners beeped, and supervisors issued directions over radios. Everything was normal, so normal that Mark barely noticed the blue suitcase placed at the far end of the line. It blended in with the hundreds of others passing through. But Rex noticed. His ears flicked. His nose twitched. Mark didn't sense anything unusual yet, but Rex's subtle shift of posture hinted that their predictable day might not stay predictable for long. Mark glanced down at him. "What is it, boy?" Rex didn't move, didn't bark. He just stared ahead with a focus sharper than before. The morning felt routine, but Rex had already sensed the first ripple of something far from ordinary, something that would soon shake the entire airport. The conveyor belt rattled softly as suitcase after suitcase slid through the X-ray tunnel. Mark stood with his arms crossed, watching passengers retrieve their belongings with the same rushed rhythm he'd seen thousands of times. The blue suitcase, plain, medium-sized, worn at the corners, would have gone unnoticed by everyone. But Rex's attention had shifted fully toward it. The bag moved slowly along the belt, unclaimed, unnoticed. No tags, no decorative straps, no bright stickers like most travelers used. Just a simple, heavy-looking suitcase that seemed to drag slightly as the belt pulled it forward. One of the officers, Jenna, frowned as she checked her clipboard. "Hold on. That one doesn't match any of the current passenger scans." Mark raised a brow. "Meaning?" "Meaning no passenger standing in line checked it in," she replied. Unclaimed luggage wasn't rare, but it wasn't ignored either, especially not in airports where one forgotten bag could shut down an entire terminal. Rex shifted forward, tail stiffening. He took a few slow steps toward the conveyor exit, nose lifting into the air. Mark noticed immediately. "Rex?" he murmured, eyes narrowing. The dog didn't bark, not yet, but something in his posture, lowered head, tense shoulders, made Mark straighten. Rex was trained to differentiate between sense, detect threats, and alert before anything dangerous reached the public. Passengers filed past the mysterious suitcase without giving it a second glance. A businessman stepped around it, a mother pulled her child closer, and a group of teenagers joked as they waited for their bags. Normal, everyday movement. Yet Rex remained locked on that single piece of luggage. Jenna stepped closer. "Should I pull it off the belt?" Mark nodded slowly. "Yeah, let's take a look." She hit the pause button. The conveyor belt stopped with a low mechanical sigh. The blue suitcase sat alone at the end, heavy and still. Once removed from the belt, its weight was obvious. It thudded onto the inspection table harder than expected. "Strange," Jenna muttered. "Feels heavier than it looks." Mark didn't reply. He watched Rex carefully. The dog paced once, then circled, then lowered his nose to the suitcase. His breathing quickened. Something about that scent wasn't right. Mark felt the hairs on his arms rise. "This bag wasn't claimed," Jenna said again. Mark exhaled slowly. Or someone didn't want to claim it. The moment the words left his mouth, Rex let out a low, rumbling growl. Something inside that suitcase had caught his full attention, something no human had sensed yet, and whatever it was, the day was about to change. Rex's growl wasn't the casual warning he sometimes gave during routine scans. This one came from deep in his chest, a sound that instantly put every officer on alert. His fur bristled along his spine, and his stance shifted from cautious curiosity to full defensive mode. "Easy, boy," Mark whispered, tightening his grip on the leash. But Rex wasn't easing. He was escalating. The German Shepherd lunged forward, barking so suddenly and so fiercely that several passengers near the checkpoint flinched backward. His paws slammed against the floor as he pulled hard toward the suitcase, teeth bared, eyes fixed like he was staring at something dangerous crawling inside. Officer Daniels hurried over. "What the hell? Is he reacting to explosives?" Mark shook his head. "Not like this. This is different." Rex wasn't trained to bark aggressively for bombs. Bomb alerts required him to freeze and sit. This wild, frantic urgency meant something else. Something alive. Something suffering. Something wrong. Passengers began whispering. "Is it a bomb? What's in the suitcase? Oh my God, should we run?" A mother pulled her toddler close, eyes wide with fear. Airport staff began shuffling people away from the inspection table, creating distance. But Rex didn't back down. He clawed at the suitcase, barking each time his paw hit the fabric. Jenna's voice shook. "Mark, he's losing it." "Rex, back," Mark commanded, but Rex refused. He barked louder, more desperate, circling the suitcase, nose pressed hard against the seams. He was pacing like something inside was running out of time. The situation escalated fast. The supervisor stormed in. "Lock down this area now!" Officers moved quickly, sealing entry points, redirecting passengers, and forming a perimeter around the bag. Radios lit up with chatter. Protocol demanded caution, an unclaimed suitcase, a K9 reacting violently. This combination wasn't ignored. Rex kept barking nonstop, so forcefully that spit flew from his jaws. His eyes never left the suitcase for even a second, and every muscle in his body trembled. Mark had seen Rex detect drugs, explosives, blood traces, but he had never seen him behave like this. "Mark," Jenna said sharply. "We need to get the bomb squad. If he thinks it's not explosives," Mark cut her off, voice firm. "He's reacting like there's someone inside." The words left him before he could stop them, but the moment he said it, his stomach dropped. The possibility hung heavily between the officers. Daniel swallowed. "Someone? As in, alive?" Rex suddenly let out a sharp, high-pitched whine, one Mark had only ever heard when the dog found injured people during rescue missions. That sound wasn't fear. It was urgency, panic, alarm. Mark crouched and gently touched Rex's side. The dog trembled under his hand. "Whatever's in there," Mark whispered, "it's alive, and it's in trouble." The suitcase sat on the table, silent, unmoving. But Rex knew something the humans didn't. And, whatever secret the suitcase carried, Rex wasn't stopping until they opened it. The quiet panic spreading through the checkpoint was almost invisible, but every officer felt it. Rex's relentless barking echoed against the high ceilings, bouncing down the long terminal like an alarm no one could shut off. Even passengers behind the security ropes stared nervously, their boarding passes clutched tightly in their hands. "Lock it down now," the supervisor repeated, more urgent this time. Within seconds, officers moved with sharp precision. Metal barriers slammed shut. Signs lit up with bright red warnings. "Temporary security hold." Assistants guided passengers away from the inspection area, urging them to stay calm. Mark stayed close to Rex, trying to keep him steady, but the dog's anxiety only grew. His nails scraped against the floor as he pulled toward the suitcase, barking so intensely it sounded like he was fighting the clock itself. Officer Jenna, now wearing protective gloves, stepped forward cautiously. "We need the bomb squad's confirmation. Standard protocol." Mark shook his head immediately. "He's not acting like it's explosives. Look at him. He's scared." Rex rarely showed fear. He was trained to confront danger head-on. But here, his tail was low, his eyes wide, his entire body trembling. It wasn't aggression, it was desperation. Daniels approached with a scanner device. "Let me at least run a rapid check." As he waved the sensor near the suitcase, Rex lunged again, barking so violently that Mark had to brace himself. The device beeped uncertainly, its reading flickering. "No chemicals, no metals, no electronics?" Daniels muttered, confused. "What is it then?" The supervisor leaned in. "Could be biological, could be a trafficking situation, could be something else entirely." Mark's jaw tightened. "Whatever it is, Rex wants us to open it, immediately." A brief silence fell, broken only by Rex's frantic whines. Jenna hesitated. "We can't open a sealed suitcase without clearance." Rex barked explosively, as if answering her. Mark stepped forward. "We're running out of time. Look at him. He's not just alerting, he's begging." The supervisor studied Rex for a long moment. The dog pressed his nose against the zipper, letting out a heartbreaking, anxious cry. Finally, the supervisor nodded. "All right, we prepare to open it. Protective gear, slow movement, everyone back." Officers stepped into position, forming a semicircle. Passengers were pushed even farther away, some filming with trembling hands. Mark knelt beside Rex, whispering, "We'll find out, buddy. Just hold on." The airport had fallen into a tense stillness, every eye fixed on one silent blue suitcase. Whatever was inside had triggered something in Rex no training manual could explain, and they were seconds away from discovering why. The room felt suddenly smaller, tighter, as officers formed a perimeter around the inspection table. The blue suitcase sat in the center like a silent threat, its worn fabric holding secrets no one was prepared for. Mark steadied Rex with one hand, but the dog kept pulling forward, desperate, trembling, panting as if every second counted. Jenna approached wearing protective gear, her gloved hands hovering over the zipper. "Everyone ready?" she asked quietly. No one answered. They simply braced. Mark nodded to her. "Slow and steady. If Rex is reacting like this, something inside needs help." Rex whined sharply, scratching at the table leg, tail low and tense. His breathing was quick, like he was pleading for them to move faster. Jenna exhaled, grabbed the zipper, and pulled. Sip. The sound sliced through the silence. She paused, waiting for any reaction. Movements, sounds, smells, nothing. She opened the suitcase a few inches, letting officers aim flashlights into the narrow gap. Daniel squinted. "I don't see... Wait, something's wrapped." Jenna unzipped the rest in one smooth motion. The lid fell open. A collective gasp swept through the officers. Inside the suitcase, crammed into the tight space, wrapped in a tiny pink blanket, was a toddler. A little girl, barely 2 years old, her cheeks pale, curly hair messy, lips slightly parted, She wasn't crying. She wasn't moving. "Oh my God," Jenna whispered, hand flying to her mouth. "There's a child in here." Passengers behind the barrier screamed. A couple of them dropped their luggage. Cameras flew up. Someone shouted for an ambulance. Another shouted for security. Panic rippled outward like a shockwave. Mark's heart lurched. "She's not breathing right," he said, stepping forward instantly. The girl's tiny chest rose in shallow, uneven breaths, each one weaker than the last. Her little fingers twitched, then fell limp. Jenna reached in with trembling hands. "Careful! Careful!" The blanket slid aside, revealing bruises around the child's wrists, marks on her ankles. She had been restrained, or held, or worse. Rex suddenly leaped forward, planting his front paws on the table, nose almost touching the girl. He let out a soft, trembling whimper, the sound of a dog recognizing pain, fear, and fragility all at once. Mark swallowed hard. Rex knew. He knew she was alive in there. Daniel's voice breaking said, "Who would do this to a baby?" No one answered. Jenna gently lifted the little girl into her arms, her own eyes welling with tears. The child's head fell against her shoulder, limp and cold. "Call medics now," Mark shouted. "Tell them it's critical." Officers scrambled, shouting into radios. The supervisor barked orders, clearing a direct path for emergency responders. The entire airport felt paralyzed, every gaze locked onto the tiny bundle. Rex pressed close to Jenna, sniffing the child, whining desperately. He nudged her foot with his nose as if urging her to wake up. Mark brushed the girl's hair back and whispered, "Hang in there, sweetheart. We found you. You're safe now." But deep inside, everyone knew. The fight to save her had just begun. Chaos erupted the moment the officers realized the child was alive, but barely. Jenna clutched the little girl tightly, her arms trembling as she hurried toward the cleared pathway. The toddler's head bobbed limply against her shoulder, her tiny breasts weak and fading like a candle fighting against the wind. "Medics! We need medics now!" Mark shouted, his voice echoing through the terminal. Passengers stepped aside instantly, some gasping, others covering their mouths in shock as Jenna rushed past them. Rex stayed glued to her side, whining in panic, every instinct in him screaming that time was running out. Two paramedics sprinted into the terminal, pushing through the line of officers. "Where's the patient?" one demanded. "Here," Jenna cried, lowering the small child into their waiting arms. The paramedics quickly laid the toddler on a portable stretcher. One checked her airway while the other lifted her eyelids, frowning deeply at her unresponsive gaze. "Pulse is weak," he said. "Breathing shallow. She's dehydrated, possibly hypothermic." Mark's stomach twisted. "Will she make it?" The medic didn't answer right away. He placed a small oxygen mask over her nose and mouth. The child didn't flinch, didn't resist, didn't even twitch. Rex whined again, pacing back and forth beside the stretcher. He nudged the dangling blanket with his nose, as if trying to wake her, trying to urge her to fight. The medic finally looked up. "We need to move her ASAP." The stretcher began rolling. Officers cleared the path. Rex followed, refusing to let her out of his sight. Mark jogged beside him. As they reached the exit, the cooler outside air brushed against the child's skin. Her tiny fingers curled slightly just for a moment. Mark noticed it first. "She moved!" he shouted. "She moved! Did you see that?" The medic leaned over. "Good sign, but she's still critical. Let's keep moving." The ambulance doors were thrown open. Inside, the team worked with rapid precision. Warming blankets, IV lines, oxygen flow increased. One paramedic gently tapped the girl's cheek. "Come on, sweetheart. Stay with us." A faint whimper escaped her lips. Mark felt a lump rise in his throat. He turned to Rex, who stood with his paws on the bumper of the ambulance, staring inside with wide, desperate eyes. Mark placed a hand on the dog's back. "You found her," he whispered. "If she survives, it's because of you." Rex's ears twitched, but he didn't look away from the girl. The paramedic leaned out of the ambulance. "We're taking her to County General. Follow behind if you're coming." The doors slammed shut. The sirens erupted. The ambulance tore out of the airport with every second feeling heavier than the last. Mark watched it disappear through traffic before whispering to Rex, "Let's go. We're not leaving her alone." The fight to save her life was just beginning. And Rex wasn't done. The moment the ambulance pulled away, the airport transformed from chaos into a tense crime scene. Officers gathered around the inspection area, the once busy terminal now eerily quiet, filled only with the fading echo of Rex's frantic barking. Mark exhaled shakily, trying to steady himself. The child was on her way to the hospital, but now another urgent question loomed over them. Who had put her inside that suitcase? The supervisor's voice cut through the silence. I want all security footage from the last hour pulled up. Every angle, every conveyor, every entrance. Jenna was already typing rapidly on her tablet. I'm accessing the baggage drop feeds now. Rex sat beside Mark, finally silent, but visibly uneasy. His eyes kept darting toward the now open suitcase as if expecting the child to still be there. Mark rested a hand on his head. We'll find out who did this. Buddy. A digital monitor was wheeled in. Officers crowded around it as Jenna tapped on a video thumbnail. There, she said. This is 15 minutes before the suitcase hit the conveyor. The footage showed passengers checking in their bags, families chatting, tourists laughing, business travelers hurrying. All normal. Then, a figure stepped into the frame. A hooded person, face hidden, moving slowly, carefully. Jenna froze the image. Pause. Zoom in. The person wore a dark sweatshirt, sleeves pulled over their hands. They carried the blue suitcase by its handle. But what caught Mark's attention was how cautiously they moved, as if terrified of dropping it. Daniels frowned. Why does it look like they're cradling it? Jenna hit play again. The hooded figure walked directly to the conveyor belt, checked their surroundings, then placed the suitcase down gently, too gently for an average bag. They didn't tag it, didn't speak to anyone, didn't look up once, then they walked away. Not toward security, not toward check-in, not toward the exits. They slipped into the crowd and vanished. Mark's jaw clenched. Rewind. Follow where they went. But when Jenna traced the footage to the next camera, the figure was gone. They had chosen the one blind spot in the entire terminal. How did they know where the blind area was? Daniels muttered. Because this wasn't random, Mark said quietly. Someone planned this. Rex let out a low, uneasy sound, half whine, half growl, as if agreeing. The supervisor stepped forward. All officers, be advised, we're dealing with a potential abduction case. The suspect is unidentified and may still be nearby. Mark looked at the frozen image of the hooded figure. Whoever placed that child in the suitcase, they didn't want her to survive, and now they were out there somewhere, watching, hiding, or planning their next move. The hospital room was quiet except for the steady beeping of the heart monitor. Soft sunlight filtered through the curtains, casting a warm glow across the little girl's pale face. She lay motionless in the small hospital bed, wrapped in fresh blankets, her chest rising gently under the oxygen mask. For a moment, she looked peaceful, too peaceful for a child who had been found inside a suitcase. Mark stood near the foot of the bed, arms crossed, Rex sitting loyally at his side. The dog hadn't taken his eyes off the girl since she arrived. He lay with his head resting on his paws, ears perked, watching her every breath as if guarding her through sheer will. A nurse stepped inside quietly. Her vitals are improving, she whispered, checking the monitors. The rehydration and warming procedures helped. She just needs time. Mark nodded, though the tension in his shoulders didn't ease. Any idea when she'll wake? The nurse offered a faint smile. Sometimes children surprise us. Could be minutes. Could be hours. Rex shifted. His ears twitched. His nose lifted slightly, sniffing the air around the girl. Mark watched him closely. You think something's happening? He murmured. Rex stood up slowly, tail still, eyes fixed on the little girl. He stepped closer to the bed, placing his paws gently on the edge. Mark didn't stop him. Something about the dog's behavior felt purposeful. Then it happened. A tiny sound, a soft whimper, escaped from under the oxygen mask. Mark straightened instantly. She's stirring. The girl's fingers curled around the blanket. Her eyelids fluttered, struggling to lift. Another small whimper came, followed by a weak, trembling breath. The monitor beeped faster. Rex let out a soft bark. Not loud, not aggressive, but a gentle call, like he was encouraging her. Slowly, painfully, the girl's eyes opened. Confusion clouded her expression at first. Her gaze moved across the room, unfocused, until it landed on Rex. Her lips parted. A tiny, fragile voice barely slipped out. "Doggy?" Rex's tail thumped softly against the bed frame. Mark felt his heart tighten. It was the first word she had spoken, possibly the first thing she had said in days. The girl reached a trembling hand toward Rex. The dog stepped closer, lowering his head until his nose gently touched her fingertips. Her eyes filled with tears. Fear, relief, recognition. No one knew, but she held on to him as if he was the only thing in the world that felt safe. Mark quietly stepped closer. "Hey there, sweetheart. You're okay now." The girl blinked up at him, her voice barely a whisper. "Mommy. Where's Mommy?" Mark felt a chill run through him. The mystery wasn't over. It had only deepened. Back at the airport's security command center, tension hung heavier than the hum of the monitors. Officers crowded around multiple screens, rewinding and replaying hours of surveillance footage, desperate to trace the origin of the blue suitcase. Officer Daniels leaned forward, squinting at the timestamp. "Go back 10 seconds. That's him. I saw a movement." The technician scrubbed backward. A hooded figure stepped into frame, face down, shoulders hunched, moving with an odd stiffness, as if trying not to be noticed. The person paused near the conveyor belt, set the suitcase down, looked around nervously, then walked away without a single glance back. Jenna exhaled sharply. "He doesn't look like someone who forgot his luggage." Daniels shook his head. "No, he looks like someone who wanted it to disappear." Mark entered the room just then, Rex at his heel. The officers turned as he approached the screens. "Show me what you found." The footage played again. Mark studied every movement. The man's height, his limp, the oversized jacket, the way he kept adjusting his sleeve like he was hiding something. "That's deliberate," Mark muttered. "He's not dropping a bag, he's planting a crime." Jenna nodded. "We tracked him leaving the terminal shortly after. Look." Another camera feed appeared, the same hooded figure slipping through the crowd, avoiding cameras, heading toward the parking garage. Daniels pointed. "We're running facial analysis now, but he kept his hood low. Could be intentional. Could be trained behavior." Rex began sniffing the air near the monitors, then whined softly, pacing back and forth. Mark crouched beside him. "You remember the scent, don't you, boy?" Rex's ears perked. His nose pressed closer to the screen as the hooded man passed through the frame again. He was responding, not angrily but alertly. Mark stood. "Rex can track him. If he got close to the suitcase, his scent will be all over it." Jenna blinked. "You want to run a scent match from the hospital?" Mark nodded. "Rex won't leave that child's side for long, but if we bring a swab from the suitcase, Rex can lead us straight to the guy." Daniels tapped his radio. "I'll get the evidence team prepping." But just as they turned back to the monitors, the technician froze. "Wait, you need to see this." He zoomed in on a new angle, another security camera from outside the terminal. The hooded man wasn't alone. Beside him walked another person, shorter, wearing gloves, carrying what looked like a small backpack. They moved with the same careful, coordinated pace. Jenna's breath caught. This wasn't random. This was planned. Mark exchanged a grim look with her. Two people involved means this child wasn't abandoned. Daniels finished the thought, voice low. She was being transported. The room fell silent. The mystery was no longer a question of what happened. It was now a race to uncover why, and who else might be involved. The police interview room was quiet except for the ticking of a wall clock. Officer Mark stood beside the table, Rex lying alert at his feet. Across from them sat a woman in her early 30s, eyes red, hands trembling, hair messy as if she'd been running for days. Her clothes were wrinkled, her breathing uneven. She looked like a mother living through the worst nightmare imaginable. Her name was Emily Parker. The moment she had arrived at the station, crying and screaming that her toddler had been taken, the pieces had begun to align. But now, sitting face to face, she clutched a crumpled photograph of her daughter, the same girl Mark had found inside the suitcase. Emily wiped her tears with shaking fingers. Please, please tell me she's alive. Mark sat down gently. She is. She woke up a few hours ago. She's still weak, but she's safe. She asked for her mommy. Emily collapsed forward, sobbing into her hands. Rex lifted his head and whined softly, sensing her pain. After a moment, she took a deep breath and tried to steady herself. I need to tell you everything, she whispered. I need you to understand how this happened. Mark nodded. Take your time. Emily stared at the photo in her hands. Her name is Lily. She just turned 2. She's the sweetest little girl, always giggling, always reaching for me. I never imagined anyone would hurt her. Her voice cracked again. It started 3 days ago, she continued, swallowing hard. I took her to the mall. I was looking at some clothes and she was right beside me. Just for a second. Just 1 second. I turned to grab a shirt. Tears blurred her eyes. And when I looked back, she was gone. Mark leaned forward. Did anyone see anything? Emily nodded with a shaky breath. A woman. Security cameras showed her. She was holding Lily, pretending Lily was her child. They thought she was just carrying her baby. Emily's hands clenched into fists. She walked right out of the mall, into the parking lot, and disappeared. Mark felt a chill. We saw footage of a hooded figure leaving a suitcase at the airport. Could it be her? Maybe, Emily whispered. But I don't understand why anyone would take my daughter. I don't have enemies. I don't owe anyone money. I'm not involved in anything dangerous. Rex's ears perked. Emily's scent, fear, truth, desperation, was strong. Mark took a slow breath. Emily, did you receive any messages, threats, anything unusual? Emily hesitated, then reached into her purse with trembling hands. She pulled out her phone and opened a file. I got this last night. She slid the phone across the table. Mark leaned in. It was a video, a shaky, dimly lit recording. A woman's voice distorted, saying, She doesn't belong to you. You will never see her again if you go to the police. Mark felt his jaw tighten. Why didn't you report this sooner? Emily broke down. Because I was afraid she'd kill my baby. I didn't know what to do. But today I saw the news. They found an abandoned suitcase at the airport. She choked on her words. I prayed that it was her. Rex stood up suddenly, placing his paws on Emily's knee. She gasped, then gently touched his head. You saved her, didn't you? Mark nodded softly. Rex is the reason she's alive. Emily's tears fell harder. Please, take me to her. I need to hold her. I need her to know I never stopped looking. Mark stood. We'll take you right now. But he knew something else as he escorted her out. This wasn't just a kidnapping. There was a motive, a darker truth, and they were about to uncover it. The investigation room buzzed with faint radio chatter as Mark, Daniels, and Jenna gathered around the large display screen. Rex sat at Mark's side, alert, ears forward, sensing the tension thick in the air. Emily had been escorted safely to the hospital, but the case was far from over. Now that the child was alive, the focus shifted to the person who tried to make sure she wouldn't be found. Jenna clicked on the footage captured near the conveyor belt. This is the moment the suitcase was dropped off, she said softly. The grainy video showed a hooded figure wheeling the blue suitcase into the corner near the screening area. The person's movements were rushed, glances over the shoulder, jittery steps, hands shaking as they positioned the suitcase precisely where it would blend with the crowd. Then the figure disappeared into a swarm of passengers. Daniels rewound the footage. Look at the way they move, he said. Not confident, nervous. This wasn't a professional trafficker. No, Mark agreed. This looks personal. Jenna switched to airport entrance footage. I cross-referenced the timestamp. The same figure entered the terminal an hour earlier. But look, the camera zoomed in. Under the hood, just for a second, the light caught a piece of the person's face, a jawline, a cheekbone, a faint, familiar shape. Mark's eyes narrowed. Wait, enhance that frame. Jenna tapped the keyboard. The blurry image sharpened just enough for everyone to freeze. It was a woman, late 30s, sharp features, eyes full of rage. Daniel swallowed hard. Is that Rebecca Mills? Mark finished with a cold whisper. The room fell silent. Rebecca Mills, Emily's estranged sister, a woman who had battled her for custody, believing Emily was an unfit mother, a woman who had been reported for unstable behavior, a woman who, according to family court documents, had been told she would never have custody of Lily. Jenna pulled up Rebecca's profile. She disappeared 6 months ago. No forwarding address, no contact, but she's been spotted in 2 different cities since then. Daniel shook his head. She kidnapped her own niece? Mark nodded slowly. She's always been obsessed with that child. In her mind, she believed Lily belonged to her. A chilling realization settled over them. She stuffed a 2-year-old in a suitcase, Jenna whispered. If Rex hadn't found her... Mark didn't let her finish. We need to locate Rebecca Mills. Now. He turned to Rex. The dog's ears were pointed forward, body tense, as if he understood exactly what was coming next. Run her scent, Mark said. Find her. Rex responded instantly, standing tall, tail straight, nose lifted. Determination radiated from him. Daniels grabbed his vest. Let's move. She's still in the city. As they prepared to leave, Jenna glanced back at the screen, at Rebecca's tense, furious face. Whatever drove her to this, she said quietly, she won't stop on her own. Mark tightened Rex's leash. That's why we're going to stop her. And with that, they headed out, the hunt officially beginning. The cold evening wind swept across the parking structure outside the airport, carrying with it the fading scent of exhaust fumes and rushing travelers. But Rex wasn't distracted. His nose was locked onto one thing, Rebecca Mills. The moment he sniffed the patch of fabric taken from the suitcase, his entire posture changed. His muscles tightened, ears pointed forward, tail stiff with focus. Mark knelt beside him. Find her, Rex. Go! Rex surged forward, pulling the leash with surprising strength. His paws tapped rapidly against the concrete, weaving between parked cars. Daniels and Jenna followed close behind, scanning every shadow, every corner. She couldn't have gotten far, Jenna muttered. There were no ride shares logged under her name. Doesn't matter, Mark said. Rex knows. They followed him up one level, then another. Rex inhaled deeply, nose almost to the ground, moving faster and faster. Then he stopped. His head snapped up. He growled low. Mark's hand moved to his holster. What do you smell, boy? Rex turned sharply and bolted toward a dark corner of the garage. Daniels hissed. She's here! They rushed after him. Rex slid to a sudden stop beside an abandoned sedan, its doors shut and windows fogged on the inside. He barked violently, once, twice, then began pawing at the back door. Mark raised his voice. Rebecca Mills, step out of the vehicle with your hands where I can see them. For a moment there was no movement, no sound, just silence. Then the rear door slowly cracked open. A woman stepped out, eyes wild, hair tangled, breathing unsteady. Rebecca Mills. Her hood fell back, revealing a face twisted with anger and fear. Stay back, she screamed, holding something in her shaking hands. Mark's heart jolted. A photograph, a picture of Lily. Rebecca clutched it to her chest like it was oxygen. She's mine, Rebecca rasped. She should have been mine, Rex growled, stepping forward protectively. Daniels aimed his flashlight. Rebecca, put your hands up, do it now. Her eyes darted left, then right, calculating escape. You don't understand. Emily doesn't deserve her. I was supposed to raise her. I was supposed to... Lily almost died, Mark snapped. You stuffed her into a suitcase. She couldn't breathe. Rebecca's expression cracked, eyes trembling, jaw tightening. I didn't mean to hurt her. I just wanted to take her with me. I was going to leave the city. Start over. By killing her? Jenna shouted. Rebecca froze. Her grip loosened. And that tiny moment was all Rex needed. He lunged, not to attack, but to block. He planted himself between Rebecca and the officers, halting her attempted escape as she spun toward the car door. Mark seized her arm, pinning her against the vehicle. It's over, Rebecca. It's over. Her body sagged in defeat. As handcuffs clicked around her wrists, Rex stepped back, his gaze steady and unblinking. He had done exactly what he was trained to do. Protect the innocent. Stop the threat. End the chase. Mark gave Rex a firm pat. Good job, partner. But he wasn't smiling, because the hardest part still remained. Bringing closure to a mother and healing to a child who had lived through a nightmare. The hospital hallway smelled faintly of disinfectant, but to Emily it felt like stepping into a chapel. Quiet, sacred, filled with a hope she was almost scared to believe in. Her hands trembled as she walked, guided by a nurse. Mark and Rex followed a few steps behind, giving her space but staying close enough if she needed strength. Outside the door to Lily's room, Emily froze. She gripped the frame so tightly her knuckles turned white. Is she awake? She whispered. Mark nodded gently. She's been asking for her mommy. Emily's breath broke. Tears streamed down her face as she pushed the door open. Inside, tiny Lily sat propped up on pillows wrapped in warm blankets. Her cheeks were still pale, her eyes tired. But when she saw her mother, her whole face lit up. "Mommy!" she cried, her small voice cracking with emotion. Emily's legs gave out for a moment, but she caught herself and rushed forward, falling to her knees at the bedside. She scooped Lily into her arms, hugging her as tightly as she dared. My baby, I'm here. I'm here," she sobbed into her daughter's hair. Lily clung to her mother with desperate strength, tiny fists gripping Emily's shirt. You came. Emily peppered her face with kisses, crying so hard she could barely speak. I never stopped looking, not for 1 second. Behind them, Rex sat quietly, observing the reunion with gentle eyes. And then Lily lifted her head. She saw Rex. A small gasp escaped her. "Doggy," she whispered, reaching a tiny hand toward him. Rex stood, tail wagging just once, soft, respectful. He stepped closer to the bed. Lily leaned forward and wrapped both arms around his neck. Rex lowered his head so carefully, as if afraid to hurt her. He let out a soft rumble, a comforting, protective sound. Emily stroked Rex's fur with trembling fingers. You saved her," she whispered, voice breaking. "I owe you everything." Mark stood by the door, watching the moment with wet eyes. He tried to blink away. This was why they did the job. Emily looked up at him. "Thank you, all of you. If you hadn't found her, if your dog hadn't noticed." Mark shook his head. Rex knew. He never stopped until he got to her. Lily snuggled into her mother's lap, clutching Rex's fur with her tiny fingers, as if she didn't want to let go of either one. For the first time since the nightmare began, Emily exhaled a breath of pure relief. Her daughter was alive, safe, home. Back at the precinct, the interrogation room felt colder than usual. Rebecca Mills sat across the metal table, hands cuffed, eyes hollow. The rage she carried earlier had drained into something darker, an unsettling emptiness. Mark entered with Jenna and Daniels, Rex sitting loyally beside him, watching the woman with calm vigilance. Rebecca didn't look up. Mark placed a file on the table. "We need the truth, all of it." Her jaw tightened. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then slowly she exhaled, a shaky, broken sound. "It was supposed to be simple," she whispered. "I just wanted her. I wanted Lily." Jenna leaned forward. "You nearly killed her. Stuffing a child in a suitcase? She couldn't breathe." Rebecca flinched. "I panicked. I didn't mean to hurt her. I thought if I could take her far away, she'd learn to love me. I was going to keep her safe." Daniel slammed his hand on the table. "Safe? You call that safe?" Rebecca's voice cracked. "Emily doesn't deserve her. She got everything. The house, the job, the baby. I deserve something too." Her words revealed the truth more clearly than anything else. This wasn't a calculated crime. It was a delusional obsession fueled by jealousy and emotional instability. Mark opened the file. "You bought a one-way plane ticket under a fake name. You planned to leave the country with her." Rebecca stared at her hands. "I thought, if no one could find her, no one could take her away from me." "And the suitcase?" Mark pressed, her eyes filled with tears. "I heard officers coming. I panicked. I hid her the only way I could. I thought I'd come back for her later. Rex let out a soft growl. Rebecca's voice trembled. I didn't know she'd stop breathing. I didn't know. You didn't care, Jenna cut in. That's the truth. Silence thickened the room. Mark leaned back. If Rex hadn't found her, she would have died. That little girl survived because a dog refused to give up. Rebecca lowered her head. For the first time, she truly understood the consequences of her actions. Mark stood. You'll face charges, kidnapping, child endangerment, attempted murder. This ends today. As they left the room, Rex paused, watching Rebecca through the glass. Then he turned and followed Mark. His job done. But the truth lingered like a shadow. Lily had come terrifyingly close to being lost forever. The sun had begun to set by the time Mark and Rex returned to the hospital, the sky glowing with soft shades of gold and pink. Inside Lily's room, the atmosphere felt different, warmer, lighter, filled with quiet joy instead of fear. Lily sat in her mother's lap, small fingers tangled in Emily's hair as she giggled softly, a sound that felt like healing. Emily looked up when Mark entered. "Officer," she whispered, eyes misting. "She's going to be okay. The doctors say she'll make a full recovery." Rex approached the bed, tail wagging gently. Lily reached for him instantly. "Doggy!" she squealed, wrapping both arms around his neck. Rex endured the hug proudly, closing his eyes as if savoring the moment. Emily smiled through tears. She hasn't let go of that dog since she woke up. "I think she knows he saved her." Mark nodded. "He did more than save her. He refused to give up on her, even when none of us understood what he sensed." Emily reached into her pocket. "I want you to have this." She handed Mark a small folded note. He opened it carefully. Inside, written in soft, shaky handwriting, were the words, "Tell the dog. He's my hero." Mark felt his chest tighten. He looked at Rex, who sat proudly beside Lily, and whispered, "You hear that, buddy? You're her hero." Emily leaned forward, tears shimmering. "Thank you for everything. You didn't just save my daughter. You saved me too." Rex laid his head gently on Lily's lap, as if promising he would always protect her. The camera of a nearby nurse caught the heartwarming scene, a mother reunited with her child, a brave K9 sitting guard, and an officer who trusted his partner when it mattered most. A moment that would soon spread across the world, touching hearts everywhere. Mark stood by the door watching them. "Let's go home, Rex," he murmured softly. But just as he turned, Lily called out in her tiny voice, "Bye-bye, doggy." Rex wagged his tail one last time. As Mark and his partner walked down the hallway, he whispered, "Good work today." And Rex, as if he understood every word, pressed closer to him, loyal, brave, and forever a hero.